it to the budget legislative analyst to hear her thoughts.
So Ms. Whitehouse summarized the spending in these two appropriation ordinances. The Board of Supervisors did amend the admin code to require that 9 city departments get overtime approval before they spend the overtime monies in their budget. This year, 3 departments are coming forward: police, sheriff, and emergency management. In the case of both police, both at the airport and in their general fund budget, and the sheriff, the overtime is being funded through salary savings. You can see that on page 8 of our report and page 11 of our report. In both cases, it does indicate that the budgeted positions are higher than the actual number of positions they currently have working. With emergency management, they state that the overtime expenditures are due both to staffing up to meet the call volume and some attrition in their positions. With public health, as Mr. Wagner has been talking about, this is really not overtime, but meeting permanent positions, replace spending for temporary and per diem positions in lieu of permanent positions to meet the census. And in both cases, we do recommend approval of the ordinances.
Thank you. I'm going to go back to Supervisor Fewer, who has a few more questions,
yes,
specifically for the Sheriff's Department.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair. Also, Ms. Whitehouse, I just have a question about the sheriff's plan to hire permanent employees, and also because I understand from our discussions that the much of the overtime is mandatory because of the minimum staffing that is needed and mandated in our facilities. So I know that this takes actually a toll on workers themselves, that they must sometimes work double shifts. And so I am really interested in how quickly the Sheriff's Department can staff up so that the deputy sheriffs actually are not required or mandated to do double shifts or longer shifts, which is not sustainable, quite frankly, for our workforce, and also to have a healthy, emotionally, mentally, and physical healthy workforce. And so I'm anxious to hear about what are the plans to staff up, and when can we be guaranteed that they will be staffed up, and so that it will alleviate some of this mandatory overtime on the existing membership.
Yes, thank you for your question, Supervisor Fuhrer, and I definitely will hand it over to the sheriff, but just from my perspective, I wanted to say the sheriff has really prioritized hiring in the last few years. They've just had an extraordinary number of retirements, and as you all know, we have a really low unemployment rate right now, as well as our fire and police departments are also staffing up along with emergency management. So I do think it's a challenging time, and I have been really impressed with the number of classes they've been able to bring on, and I do think that their CFO has told me by next year they should be at their budgeted and funded staffing levels, but I definitely want the sheriff an opportunity to respond on the toll that overtime takes on workers and those issues.
Thank you, Sheriff.
Thanks, Melissa. I think she hit it right on the nose, actually, and good morning, supervisors. Just I can give you some numbers, and this will help, I think, make it. So basically, in 2015, when I became sheriff, we were down 80 people. I hired 72 in 2016. These are sworn positions, by the way. And I hired 96 in 2017. However, in 2016, I lost 49 people. In 2017, 63 people retired or separated from the department. So what I have here is I have a deficit of 192 with 168 hires. And so I'm still struggling. And so we're still getting there. But I have to thank the mayor's office. They've been very helpful, and they've been working with us consistently. We're at about capacity as the number of people that we can hire and send to an academy at any one time. And of course, we have the same issue as the police department specifically, in that it takes up to 9 months before somebody really counts against our minimum and can be hired. And I agree with you. I think that it's been a struggle for the department, and our supervisors have spent the majority of their time just trying to get people to work. And we have done a lot of mandatory overtime. I will say it's gotten better just this last year now, because people are starting to count against our minimums. These people that we've hired, they've been trained, they're ready to go. And we still have a ways to go, but it has gotten better, and I do expect an improvement.
And of your academy classes, what is the pass rate?
I'm sorry?
Your academy classes that you put
Well,
through?
our academy classes, we send our people to academies in different academies, and these are regional academies, post academies, and our pass rate, I would say, is above 90%, but there are a few people that do not make it.
So these sheriffs that have left, is it through retirement or?
A lot of it's through retirement. About 25 years ago, between 25 and 30 years ago, we had a lot of hiring, and so now that's catching up with us.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, you're welcome.
Thank you very much. And then Sheriff Hennessy, what is your estimation of how much it costs the city and county of San Francisco investment-wise in training for each individual that you might lose from your workforce due to the cost of living in San Francisco?
I would say it costs $100,000 per person because these people are on salary, and so they don't count against their minimum, so we're not getting any useful return at that moment, and so I'd say about $100,000 each.
Is an investment.
As an investment. If you talk about their salary and benefits, and then you also talk about the time that they're counting away from the actual job getting the work done.
Okay, so I just think that when we look at these investments that we're putting into people, individuals, I mean, of course, our goal is to get off the treadmill on this thing, and that they would stay with us and
Yes.
actually have at least an employment of 20 years or 30 years with us, and able to gain a pension with us also. And so I'm looking at this investment actually of these individuals that are leaving. It's actually really, really costly to the city and county of San Francisco.
I would say, though, Supervisor, that I would say we have a very good retention rate. And so what you're seeing are people that are retiring. Some people, sometimes discipline happens and people are terminated. They may not pass probation. There's not a lot of that. And a few people that don't pass the academy. But I say generally our retention is pretty good.
Oh, good. So you're not hearing that people are leaving your workforce because of the cost of living in San Francisco, their inability to live here?
I would say that it's not the cost, not the inability to live here. It may be the issue of commuting sometimes, that people don't want to commute as far as they're commuting. But I will say too, just to correct something, we were talking about a problem in hiring. It's not a problem in hiring. It's about us having the money to have the positions to get people, because we've been very successful in getting people to sign up and actually come into our department. You realize too that both the police department and us, we have a background process that people have to go to in order to be hired, and there are some people that fail that background process as well, and that's generally through post requirements, through the peace officer standards and training requirements. So there are different levels. There's people that take the test and don't pass, and there's people that pass the test that go on to the background process. A few of those may not pass the background process, and then there's people that may go to an academy and not pass. But as I said before, I was guessing at about 90%. I would say actually it's higher than 90% in the academy of success rate. What's interesting for us, and I think it's also true for the police department because I've had some talks with them, is that people don't drive like they used to, and the driving portion of the academy sometimes is what happens. But I will say, that the academies have gone out of their way, and particularly the SFPD Academy has gone out of its way to combat that through giving extra training, remedial training. And in the academies, they do a lot of remedial training as well. So, the idea is that we want people to pass, we want them to gain the knowledge, we want them to be successful.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Thanks.
Thank you. Colleagues, I was wondering if there's any questions for any other public comment. Please come up.
Good morning, supervisors. My name is Ken Lumba. I'm the president of the San Francisco Deputy Sheriff's Association, and I just want to thank you for your time, first of all. This point of agenda really hits home, not only to me, but to our members, to my membership. I represent about 727 members. In the agenda, it shows that there's $6 million in job vacancies for the Sheriff's Department. And that money is being moved over to overtime. And the reason for that is because of the vacancies, and our deputies are working those overtime positions. So what I'd like to kind of go over is the problem that it presents, for the deputies in itself. Since there are quite a few vacancies, and what I've seen by reviewing staffing reports over the years, or over the months, is that the last couple of years, it's about approximately 60 vacancies per year. So there's 60 open job requisitions, per year on an average basis, going back to approximately 2013 to where it was about 30 a year. The problem that it raises is that, my members, the deputies, have to work those positions because we have minimum staffing levels and we have positions that we have to support to protect the public, protect their safety and so forth. Those openings that they have to work, we do have a percentage of deputies that volunteer for those openings. Once the volunteers are exhausted, it basically goes to forced overtime, mandatory overtime. We have a policy that basically, states to fill openings when there are minimums. Deputies would be ordered to work sometimes, up to the last couple hours of their shift or the last couple of minutes, and they could be ordered.
So your time is up. You only had 2 minutes. There's a timer. I should have announced this. Why don't you finish your sentence, and then we're going to have to move on.
Okay. I would just like to say that going forward, this problem needs to be addressed. I believe someone mentioned salary savings. We need to open up more job requisitions and get it reduced from 60 to 30, which is more of a manageable level.
All right, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Perhaps what we can do is I'm willing to meet with you, the budget director, and the sheriff. We can sit down and see if we can talk this through the budget cycle. All right, thank you. Is there any other member of the public that'd like to comment on items 6 and 7? None? All right, seeing that, public comment is closed. Thank you very much.